Section 21's now abolished, gone in the new Renters' Rights Act era. So what do landlords really need to know? Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Ali. Welcome back to Concentric TV. Now, I personally have been working with landlords and investors for almost 20 years, helping them grow portfolios, manage them compliantly, optimize their investments. And we're in a time where we've had the biggest shake-up I've ever seen in my 20-year career with the Renters' Rights Act. So really, really important. We're going to break down a little bit of that today. I'm also here with my colleague Elisha.
Hi, so I'm based in Liverpool for the Concentric branch, and I've also been helping landlords, investors make sure that they're compliant and running their portfolio smoothly for the last 10 years or so.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you for joining me, Elisha. So, yeah, really, really important topic. So, obviously, unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, you'll know the Renters' Rights Act is in force as of the 1st of May, so it's now in force, it's now official. And of course, there comes a lot of changes. Now, I want to talk a little bit about notice grounds and evictions, because we know that Section 21s have been abolished. So, let's start with this. So, tenant in a property, obviously under the new world, what sort of notice does a tenant now need to give under the new periodic tenancies?
So, tenancies now have changed. So they're under periodic tenancies, so APTs rather than ASTs. So there's no fixed term anymore, so you can't hold them to a 6 or 12 months. However, previously, before Renters' Rights Act, it was 1 month's notice that a tenant needed to provide. This has now doubled to 2 months' notice. Okay. So it does give a landlord a little bit more leeway in terms of finding a new tenant and making sure that there's no void periods. So yeah, 2 months for a tenant. And
I just want to just elaborate on that, because there's always been a certain period of time a tenant's had to have been in the property before being able to give notice, right? Mm-hmm. What does that look like now?
So a tenant basically doesn't need to be in a property for a minimum period of time anymore. Okay. So for a tenant, they could basically be in the property for a minimum of 3 months, and that's it. They could leave.
So it's pretty much 2 months' notice from the beginning.
It is. So it needs to be in line with their rental due date. So it's going to be very, very rare that a tenant's going to give notice on the day of move-in to be out within 2 months. So say they give notice the following day, because that's not in line with their rental due date, it would then go to the 3 months. So the minimum time that a tenant can now be in the property is 3 months based off the new notice period.
Interesting. So yeah, so there's been a lot of talk about obviously the periodic tenancies coming into force and changes to notice period and stuff like that. But one thing I'm keen to ask, and a lot of our clients and landlords have been asking, do you think that that's going to result in a higher turnover of tenants for landlords?
So I think this has been a huge question. It's obviously a lot of cost when you have to find a new tenant. So to do that, let's say every 3 months in 1 year, is going to be very expensive. However, I don't think that's going to be the case. So on average, a tenant stays in a property anywhere between 2 to 4 years. It's expensive for tenants to move. Sometimes it can be difficult to actually get an application through. You know, there's a lot of people looking. So I don't think that's going to be the case. But other properties like HMOs, furnished flats, and maybe like holiday destinations may find this a little bit more than your usual standard buy-to-let properties.
I agree. It's going to depend on which segment of the market you're in, but I totally agree. Your typical standard everyday tenancy, tenants are not going to want to have to keep paying out more deposits, moving costs, you know, potentially if they've got kids, keep, you know, dragging them around. So I totally get you. There is a slight concern if you're in a popular holiday destination that it might be cheaper to rent a place for 2 months than it is to hire a caravan or a place to stay on Airbnb.
100%, right? Especially when there's like a big event on in that certain area, you know, prices already hike in hotels, Airbnbs. So for some, it may actually just be cheaper to rent somewhere out for 3 months and give notice.
So if you're a landlord in a popular holiday destination, maybe something to just slightly think about, but I think you're right. I think most tenancies are going to be okay.
I think 80% of them are going to be fine.
Now that we've gone into the notice that tenants can give, what about the notice that landlords can give? Talk to us. So what was it before Renters' Rights Act and what's it now become in the new Renters' Rights Act era?
So when we had the Section 21, the notice period was 2 months. And you didn't have to give a reason on that.
Yeah, it was like a no-fault notice, wasn't it?
Yeah, you didn't have to give any reason. You could just serve a Section 21 whenever you wanted, within reason, on the tenancy side of it, and that was it. You didn't have to give a reason, 2 months, and then you could take them to court if they didn't vacate. Now, that's gone, and you can't now give no-fault evictions. You have to give a valid reason on why you want your property back. On the usual cases, such as looking at selling the property, and your landlord wants to move back in, family and friends maybe want to move back in, that is still possible under the new world, under the Section 8 notice. So new grounds are going into the Section 8, which allow for situations in that case. However, it's doubled. So you have to give 4 months notice now on those grounds.
So 4 months instead of 2 months, okay.
Yeah, and that's not taken into consideration if they don't leave, the court process and the eviction process thereafter. So again, it could be doubled to 8 months potentially.
Interesting, yeah, okay. And again, is there a period of time that the tenant has to have been in the property for before you can serve notice?
Yeah, so the tenant has to be in the property for a minimum of 12 months. So you cannot serve notice if the tenant has been in there 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, for instance.
Okay.
They have to have been in the property for 12 months.
Wow, so this has increased now, hasn't it?
It has. So you can't serve notice, obviously, during that period. And another thing as well, if you do serve notice on those grounds of wanting to sell the property, wanting to move back into the property, once that property is empty, you are then in a restricted period.
Ah, yes.
So that restricted period, depending on obviously what the market's like at the time, so this is something that you may want to consider before you serve notice if you're looking at selling potentially. If you don't sell that property, you say within 6 months and you want to rent it out, you can't. So again, you've got void periods, council tax, mortgages that you're going to be paying while it's empty. And if you're found renting that property out within that restricted period of 12 months, the fine is £40,000.
£40,000. Wow. So this is really, really important, isn't it? For I mean, I know there's a lot of landlords that are thinking of exiting or in the process of coming up with an exit strategy and deciding when to put it on the market and so on. Of course, it's got to be a factor for consideration. If you're going to commit to selling and go down that road, as soon as you serve that notice and that tenant leaves, you've got to commit to it. 12 months is that thing, and again, that's a massive, massive fine. Of course, for anyone that is thinking of selling, there is a different way, maybe an off-market approach, and a landlord to invest the sale with the tenant in situ. That would combat the risk of the 12-month thing, wouldn't it?
Correct. So you can still sell your property with a tenant in situ. Yeah. There's absolutely no restrictions on that whatsoever. Obviously, there's other things to consider. Does it add up? Obviously, do the numbers stack? But you can sell the property with a tenant in situ. Yeah. So you don't have to serve notice and go down all the restricted periods, potential £40,000 fines, etc. You can just obviously do it that way instead.
Of course, no, massive. That's good advice. For anyone that is thinking about that and would like some more advice, there will be a link down below to book a consultation call, so you're more than welcome to take us up on that. But yeah, wow, interesting. £40,000 fine, that's huge.
And the reason they've done the £40,000 fine is because they know that there probably would have been people that took advantage of that.
Yes.
So use that without actually wanting to sell or without actually wanting to move in. So the reason the fine is so high is to stop people from using and abusing that clause.
So what we're really saying is now, for a landlord to serve notice, that it has to be a genuine reason, whatever that reason is, for good or bad, it has to be a genuine reason. That makes absolute perfect sense. Are there going to be new grounds on the Section 8? Is that what we're saying? There's going to be new grounds on the Section 8 to combat the fact that there's no more Section 21?
Correct. So there's going to be new grounds, selling, you want to move back in, family and friends.
Yep.
There's also going to be an antisocial behaviour ground, which is already in there, but that's actually going from discretionary to mandatory. And then there is also going to be changes regarding the Section 8 ground on rent arrears.
Yeah, talk to us a bit about rent arrears. So there's some changes as well, isn't there, to how much arrears the tenant have to be in and stuff like that. So talk to us a bit about the rent arrears side of it.
So I think for me, this is probably quite, costly for landlords if it does go down that route. So pre-Renters' Rights Act, you were looking at 2 months rent arrears and 2 weeks notice. So that's 2 months, 2 weeks, and then you can actually take them to court and go down the whole eviction route. That's pretty much doubling. So the tenant needs to be in 3 months arrears before you can even serve a Section 8 notice based on arrears, and then it's a 4-week notice.
Okay.
So that's 4 months you could be without rent before you can even take them to court.
Before you start that process,
Yeah. And because now the Section 21's gone, all the section notices are going to have to go to court.
Okay.
We don't know how big the backlog's going to be. We don't know whether they've actually made changes on that front. So it's a waiting game to see how that affects it.
It's interesting. So potentially, again, it's going to extend the period of financial loss for a landlord experiencing a non-paying tenant.
Yeah, massively.
So that brings me to the next thing about protection. Obviously, I'm a big, advocate for insurances and having the right protection in place and stuff like that, because as much as you want to, invest to make money and get returns, I think part of those returns are very much about protecting them in the first place, right? Because things can go wrong.
Yeah.
So what would you advise landlords to protect themselves against potential non-payers and stuff like that?
So I'm the same as you, big advocate for insurances that are out there.
Yep.
And every single landlord that I speak to, it is a non-negotiable. You know, there's rental guarantee insurances out there that will cover for loss of rent. So if your tenant does not pay, they will pay out to you. They will pay out to you. They will also cover legal costs. They will also
court fees,
bailiff costs, everything. Yep. So you are not losing out on any money. You're not paying out any further money. So then you're covered. So your mortgage that you have to pay, maintenance, you know, any more compliance, it's all covered. So you're not losing on that rent, so it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. No, I totally agree. Interesting. And then just final thing to add from me. So of course we've covered a few topics here. Obviously there's, you know, changes to notices and different grounds on Section 8s and length of time that it has to be for notice and all that sort of stuff. So we've covered a lot there. We've also covered the fact that, you know, if you're looking to sell your property, there's, you know, potential risk there, maybe other options to consider. What can we do to help landlords who are a little bit unsure, maybe thinking they need to, you know, a bit of advice on what to do next and where they want to go in the future? What are we offering?
So we do actually offer an off-market service, and we do offer consultations to discuss what the best route is for you. So we are offering a free call if you want to click the link below, and we can discuss the best options for you, and if you are looking at selling, whether that works best.
Fantastic, yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Elisha. So yeah, absolutely second that. So free consultation call will help you determine, you know, what the right next step is for you if you are thinking of changing something. So just click the link below and you can book that in with one of our experts. And listen, guys, I really hope you found this useful. Elisha, fantastic. Thank you very much for your advice. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be bringing you future content with more useful tips and advice on the big changes in the rental sector and more tips on how you can optimize your property portfolio. So I'm Ali, this is Elisha. Thank you again for watching. We'll see you on the next video.